Hey guys, this is Chidaro's Bling. Today's tutorial will be on this bracelet here, which was created by Adele.Griffiths. It is called the Eve's bracelet. It is a 3-pin, which is a normal rainbow loom setup for the majority of the bracelet, and there are similar steps for the outside border as the Heaven's Gate bracelet that Adele had designed, which I had done the tutorial on. And there is also a added feature to this one that is a very similar step to the switch loop stitch that Yarn Journey had created and Justin's Toys, Rob, had added to the Hybrid Theory. So this is a very unique design that adds multiple ways of looming, still done on a 3-pin setup. So bravo for that different types of looming added together. So this side here is the signature side. This right here, this band that's on this side here, this is the band that's brought over top when we do the switch loop, like all of these bands facing this way, which I'll explain as we're looming, as well as the different color options on placing bands if you want a different color or theme. So let's get started. You will need your loom set up in a staggered configuration, which is the normal out of the box configuration. You will need your hook, C-clip, and choice of bands. So I'm always looking for inspiration for color, so I'm always on everyone's account looking for their color combos. This one here I had done in the what do you call it? It'll come to me. But there is the glitter pink, the silk pink, the silk light pink, and these are the metallic, that's it, the metallic gray. All of these are rainbow loom bands. Today I think I'm going to try to go with the metallic gray. It is literally my favorite band. It doesn't twist. It's a good material and it has a nice sheen. And possibly I have the mixed pack of LE bands. They're like in the enchanted glitter or such. So that's just a round band that's clear with some glitter, and maybe mix in some out of the same pack. It's a light pink glitter color, and let's see what we can come up with. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is make sure that your pin bars are facing away, and we want to add a single chain going up the middle. So I am going to speed through the first half or the majority of this bracelet because we want to have time to focus on the end of it, which adds the different techniques of looming. So go ahead and add your single chain up the middle. Whoops, sorry, I want to use the glitter ones. So that goes from the first pin bar all the way up to the end. And that's just one band. And then make sure you push all of your bands down. Okay, it's pretty easy when you look at the bracelet that you know that that is what we just placed. You can see there. If you turn it around, if you like the back side as the signature for yourself, you can see it coming through. Okay, the next two steps are the same, as we are going to add these zigzag bands going up our sides. And in this bracelet here, I used glitter pink and the silk pink. So that's your color option. Okay. One thing I want to mention is when we do the Slipknot technique on the outside, or we do the one stitch, you're going to take the first band that you place here. Okay, so in my case, I want to add a glitter band. Okay, and then next I want to add that color. I want to change my colors like this. Okay, so it's hard to explain, but I'm trying to explain it in a way, because if you want to add different colors, the band that you slip knot or the band that you bring over in this one stitch, it's going to be the first band on top. Okay, so it's kind of hard to explain, but if you want different colors on the outside, this band right here, the silver one, you have the opportunity. That's your first band that you lay. You have the opportunity to change and add that as a different color. So that's the band that we're placing, and then we have to add these in the end. Okay, if that makes any sense. So I'll show you as I go, and then you can always change up your color sequence if you'd like. So let's just quickly add up a zigzag all the way up our loom. And as always, the designer's link is always provided in the description box below. So please visit Adele's Instagram account so you can, one, see the original design and the colors that she used, and two, obviously, you want to really check out her account if you haven't already, because it is quite an amazing account. She is a great loomer, and I'm always flattered when she asks if I will do a tutorial or if I beg her. Alright, so we got the left side done. Let's go and do the right side. So I'm going to do the same sequence as far as I added the clear glitter. So I'm going to go with the same color I added on the opposite side and just crisscross zigzag these all the way up. And if you need to pause the video because I am kind of going a little bit quicker, please do so, and then you can always meet me back at the step that comes next when you are ready. One thing I do want to mention as well is that this is a very thin bracelet. It's not a thick stitched design, so don't be alarmed when you take it off your loom that it's not tightly woven and a thick, it's not a thick bracelet. It's a thin, loose design. So hopefully while I was gabbing I did my colors correctly, and I can see that I didn't because I'm adding the wrong color right there, but that's okay. Alright, so our next step is to take, you want to add whatever your single chain color is. That's the color you want to add at the end here, and we're going to add a cap band, so you double that band on that first peg. Okay, so you turn your loom around. Okay, and this will help explain a little bit, I guess, once we go through. What we're going to do now is just do the typical looming as we would normally do with a standard bracelet. So we're going to go in our cap band, grab the first band on top, loom it back to itself. Go in the cap band, next band in line, back to itself. Last band is our single chain one going forward. Okay, when you pull that single chain forward, you're able to move along in the pattern because that single band or that single chain band acts as a cap band, allowing you to loom out this peg. So first band on top goes back, second band on top goes back to itself, and you just go in order of how the bands are in this peg And always remember the single chain is the last one to loop. So I'm going to speed this up a tad so we have more time at the end. And obviously, because I explained we have a few more steps to do, that's why you see these bands on the outside are not secure, because those further steps will allow for the bands to be secure, thus not falling apart when we take it off our loom. These last few steps do take up a bit of time too. And if you would like to make this a full wrap, I suggest, usually Adele will say how many pattern repeats or whether or not it's a full 2 looms or not. Being a loose design, I'm not sure if 2 full looms will be a full wrap. It might be just a couple patterns short of a full 2 looms. I know with the 1 loom it goes around my wrist entirely on the top, and it's not too many that need to be added to be the full wrap. So okay, so as we are finishing up, we want to pull this one here back to itself. Then we have these 2 bands on the outer pegs. We want to go into this top peg and bring those ones back to themselves as we have been doing. So we do not do the typical bringing everything to this top peg. Okay, so this is what your loom should look like. Typical looming. Alright, that was the easy part. I think a lot of you are familiar with what we have just done. Now this is where we add the unique parts of this bracelet. Okay, so if you're familiar with the switch loop technique, which was used in the gumdrop bracelet, and I believe that Rob had done another design. I'm not quite sure exactly what it's called, but it uses that technique, and then again it was brought over into the hybrid theory. That's what we're going to be doing on every peg here. It may not be the exact same stitch, but it's the same concept, or at least that's how I'm going to try to explain how to do it right now. So let me try to zoom in here. Okay, alright, so as you can see, you have your top band here, okay, and then you have 1 band back to itself in the middle, so technically you have 2 more bands, and then you have another band on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 bands on each peg on the outside. So what we want to do is we want to take our hook like this, and I'm going to use the same technique that Rob has used for that switch loop. I want to take and put my hook inside the peg only to put the first band on the outside of my hook. Okay, once that first band is on the outside of my hook, I want to secure my thumb onto that band, and you want to hold quite tight on it. Once you have that band secured, you want to take your hook and place the hook up in the air, go inside, and you want to grab every one of the bands. So there's 3 left on your peg, and you want to stick your hook inside all 3 of those bands. Okay? take them carefully off of the peg. When you take them off the peg, that's when you can release your thumb, and that takes that first band underneath all the bands that are on your hook right now. And then we want to take the bands on our hook, and we want to carefully, in order, place them back on that peg. Just like that. Okay? So it put that first band right there, and all the remainder bands are in the same order back on our peg. We can go up later on and kind of do like a little twist and make sure that they're in the right order. But that is the technique. So again, that's the one that's the one I messed up on. So we want to stick our hook inside, push out the first band, and secure it tightly with our thumb. Now, you can go ahead then and put your hook in to grab all of the bands on your peg, but you really got to pull your loom hook down, because if you leave it like this, it's very easy for the bands on the peg to fall off your hook. But if you put the handle of your hook down, you're bringing that hook part right there up, thus allowing for those bands not to fall off. So we bring that off the peg, release our thumb, make sure that band's down there, and then carefully place the remainder 3 bands back onto this peg here. Okay, then you can stick your hook in and go around, and that will place all of them back in the correct order. Alright, so again, we stick our hook in, hold that first band with our thumb, grab the remainder 3 bands on our hook, place the handle down so this is up, take it off the peg, release your thumb, let that band fall down, and then you can even put your finger on the hook part to make sure that you are able to put all the remainder bands back on that peg. Once you get the hang of it, it's simple. It's fairly simple, but you just really got to be careful that you don't drop bands. So again, stick that in. And I'm so sorry, I'm left-handed. I'm trying not to be in your way. I'm just going to kind of push this back so I can possibly show. I got all the rest of the bands on my hook. I'm bringing it up, releasing my thumb, and putting the remainder of the bands on my peg. Then making sure they're all straight. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, again, I'm sticking my hook in, grabbing all of those bands. Oops, now see here, I'm really worried I'm not capturing this on film, so I did not grab that bottom band. So you really got to make sure that you're grabbing all 3 bands on that peg. So I'm going to start over here. I'm just going to take my hook out. I'm going to stick my hook back in, make sure that I'm grabbing all of the bands. Okay, then bringing it up, releasing my thumb, and then putting them all back on the peg. So I'm going to speed this up a tad. Well, first, always want to make sure all your bands are straight so you're grabbing the correct one. So I'm going to zoom out, and that way it's not like me and your wife. So I have tried this bracelet with several different types of bands, and oops, this one needs to go back. There we go. And the thicker your band, obviously you have to take more caution that you did capture every band on that peg. It's a little bit awkward on camera. Maybe that'll be better. Whoops. There, you guys can see that way. Uh-oh. Okay, good, because at least I can show you. Alright, so I did not put one band back on the peg, so I'm simply, because it's still underneath this band here in the center, I'm just going to grab this end here. I'm going to put it back on the peg. Okay, so none of that worked. Well, this pink one has to be on top, so I'm going to take that pink and place that one. So that attempt of looming failed for me. So I'm going to start over. Make sure I've got all my bands on that hook. And I guess the hard part is you have to make sure that you're in the middle there to place all of the bands back on the peg. But it's very easy to fix it if something should happen. See, like I pull this out like this because I want to make sure I grabbed every band back to the peg. Okay, so once you get that side done, as I mentioned, you can go in and circle around each peg to make sure that the bands fall back into the correct order, as some of them may be twisted and such. So I'm just going to go do that. Whatever color you just brought over, that color should be the last band on your peg. And then the other band, two bands in the middle on that peg, should be the same color. Oops. Jeez. Okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to do the opposite side. But I try to do with whatever I do on one side, I mimic on the opposite. So instead of starting down here, I want to come back up and I want to start up here and do it the same as I did on that side, starting with this top right peg. And I already failed. Alright, so I need to take this pink and put it back down here. Okay, this one I need to fix. So the pink one came from right here. So if this happens to you, you'll know how to fix it. You see how this band is wrapped here? I need to do that. So I just stick my hook inside this band, grab the pink one like that, okay? Goodness gracious, then I lost this one. So this one that goes next, we'll go back on top, or not. Oh, you have to mess up a ton of times to know how to fix a bracelet in mid-looming, let me just tell you. Because we don't want to take our bracelet and take everything off our loom. So let me try this again. we go. It helps if I turn it to the side. Notice I'm not talking because I don't want to screw it up. I think just that it's not hard. See, when I started talking, I didn't loop one. Although I was told I talk too much in my tutorials anyhow, so that's what happens when you're Italian. There we go. It's not hard, it's just awkward when you're filming, because the whole point of a tutorial is to make sure everything's visible so everybody can learn. And my colors are like completely backwards on this side, so that's kind of a good thing. Give it a different look. I'm just gonna go for saying I did it on purpose. Yikes. I'm throwing this one back on the peg. Okay. It's very important to pull that hook up so you don't lose your bands. Okay, last one. Oh, right, we survived. So again, I'm going to go back through and just straighten out all the bands to make sure they're in the right order. Okay, we got 2 more steps to go and then we will pull it off of our loom. Okay, so our next step is to do the slip knot on the border. Okay, so I'm going to start the slip knot process down here towards the beginning of the loom, and I'm going to use the metallic silver. So again, if you've done the Heaven's Gate bracelet, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, we want to go from where the cap band is right here. We want to go diagonally, excuse me, to the first pin that has our bands on it. So it's the second pin on the first pin bar. And we want to try to zoom it in a little bit. You want to stick your hook in there, and with your other hand you're holding the band that you want to use. You want to place that band on your hook, and then you want to turn your hook and bring that band up through all the bands on that peg. Okay, so then you want to move your band that you just slid through, making sure all the bands on that peg are inside. you want to bring it to the side of the peg, okay? So this is what you should have, just one band, the top and then the bottom. So with your hook still in the top loop, you just grab this bottom loop with your hook, okay? And then we're going to take the first band on your hook and slide it over your hook like that. Give it a little tug to make a slip knot. So you want to make sure that the way you're slip knotting these, that this knot part right there is on the back side. Okay, so I'm going to show you the wrong way right now. So we stick our hook through, or stick the band through. This is what you don't want to have. You don't want to have that knot part, this part, on this side of the bracelet, because when we finish the bracelet, in order to have the signature side showing, we don't want to have it in a different position. So you want to make sure that your slip knot is on the bottom, not like that. Okay, so I'm just going to take that apart and redo it. So what works for me is keeping my hook into the first part of the band, bringing the hook down to the second part, and then just sliding it over like that and giving it a pull. If it makes you feel better to pull your slip knot tight, you may do so, but just know in the end, when we are fixing our bracelet up after we pull it off the loom, we need to untighten every slip knot. So I just kind of suggest not to make them extremely tight, because you'll have to loosen them later anyhow. Alright, again, so we're just sticking that band on our hook, bringing it up through, and then slip knotting. Okay, I'm sorry, because it's so zoomed in. Let me zoom it out. So this is actually the same technique that we always use whenever we're finishing up our bracelet on the last peg and we need to capture all those bands. It's the same exact thing. So it's not hard, just time consuming. So I'm just going to finish up this side, and then I'll let you guys do the other side, and then we can meet back up. Alright, so again, we're just doing the outside pegs. Okay, so as you can see, each one of these outside pegs has a slip knotted band. Like that. And just like the Heaven's Gate bracelet, what we're going to do is just do a slip stitch the whole way up. But I want to wait, because I'm going to pause the video and finish, and you guys are going to finish. We'll do that last. So go ahead and do the exact same thing on this side of the bracelet, and whenever you're finished, we'll meet back here. Alright, this is what your loom should look like I think it's better to kind of capture it that way. So on every outside peg you have a slip knotted band going the whole way up until the end. So before we move on, I do want to take one band that is the same color as my single chain, and I always forget to do this, but it's a great idea that's used by many loomers. Let me see if I can name a few. Deb's Thing, I believe, Amanda, Monica, our Loomy, and probably quite a few others. But because we only have two bands right here, and in the end, as always, we have to stick our hook through and grab a single band, I'm going to do it now. So there's a huge gap right there. I'm just going to grab that and stick it through, and then place the one end on the peg and then pull with my other hand, and that just lets that band lay down there. So once we loom up these side bands, we'll have a total of 4 bands on there, and we won't have to worry about it later. Alright, so we're going to come down to the beginning of our loom, and I'm going to start on the left side, and we're just going to slip stitch all of these bands up towards the end of the loom or down. So I'm going to stick my hook into the first 2 loops, and then I'm going to take the first loop and pull it over my hook like that, and then pull the loop on my hook, pull my hook over to the next, and that loop becomes the back one. And grab the next one, put it on your hook, grab this back band, pull it over the first, and continue forward to the next. This is just my preference on how to do it because I don't want my bands to become twisted and crooked, so we're just simply adding the next over, it's kind of helpful to do it this way if you have bands that are like a medieval band that is very liable to twist and such. These ones don't tend to, but as much, but still, just a habit. Okay, so we connected all of the bands here on the left side of the loom, and once you get to the end of the loom, we're going to bypass this last peg on the left and bring it all the way over to the center peg where all of our other bands are joined. Okay, so this is what you should have, and that simply creates that border. So if you don't want to take the time to do it like that, you can simply just stick your hook in both and just carry on up your loom. Like this. Oh, that one's twisted. I want to make sure that they're straight. So technically you don't need 2 hands. Whichever way you feel comfortable is what matters. But I'm going, see, I let go and I have to start over, so I'm not going to do it that way, but you have the option. I want to have more control over it. So just pulling, always pulling the first band on your hook over the second band, connecting them. Okay, and now we are finished. So we're going to take that last band, bring it over to the center middle peg. Alright, we are now complete. We are finished and ready to take it off the loom. If you see any bands that are crooked or, you know, anything of that nature, you can always go back before you pull it off and straighten any of them out. So if you don't have your band down here, you have to stick that band through and make sure that you have these two on here like this. But I'm going to take off a few of these. Take off the outside before I pull it off the loom, just because I don't want it to stretch. So as you see, as you're pulling it off your loom, when I mentioned that it's a loosely, like a loose stitch bracelet, you can see it's not, there's no tension, it's a lot of space in between, it's not a thick bracelet. You can also obviously make it thicker by using thicker bands if that's something you choose to do. I think it's perfect the way it is. Alright, so I'm going to stick my hook into this band up here and then just take the rest of it right off. Okay, so don't freak out. Bracelet's not done yet, but this is what it looks like after it comes off the loom. Now this is the back side. The signature side is with the single chain showing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my C-clip to secure this band because we have to do some adjusting. Alright, so this side here is the signature because it has the two end steps visible. Okay, so you have your switch loop, that's this pink band or silver, but the outside bands that you see next to the edge, that's that slip stitch we did. And next visible is that knot, or like when we did the slip knot on the outside, that's visible on this side as well. So we want those two to be on our signature side. But what we need to do is we need to go into these slip knots and we need to loosen them up, which is just taking your hook and just tugging on them a little bit. But you want to make sure that this band that's on the edge is in towards the bracelet, and then is your slip knot to loosen. So you can see when you loosen those up, it fills in nicely. The other option is just to use your fingernail. You have to be very careful if you do this because your fingernails are sharp and you don't want to cut your band. So that's it. That's the only thing that needs to be done. We did the same thing on the Heaven's Gate bracelet. Yeah, and hence now you can understand why I said when you're making your slip knots, if you're making them too tight, you have to loosen them in the end. There, so you can completely see a huge difference between the left side and the right. It looks really great when you loosen your slip knots. It makes a big difference. Again, see how that band, that switch loop band, is on the outside? We want to push it and make it on the inside of that slip knot. And last one, and there you have it. I like the colors. I think it came out very pretty. So there is the Eve bracelet, designed by the ever so talented Adele.Griffiths. Please check her out in the link below, and definitely tell her your thoughts on her designs. Now, we do ask that you, we are both on Facebook, so we'd love to see your renditions if you are only a fan of Facebook and have an account. Tag us in your renditions. But we also have Instagram, and we love to see the renditions if you can hashtag them to Eve Bracelet. And you can also add us as well, which I have changed my name. It is Chadero's Bling now, because I finally have a my username is across all social media platforms. It is the same, so it might be a little bit easier for you guys to find me. So you can hashtag it to Chadero's Bling as well as Adele.Griffiths. So thank you so much for joining me again in this tutorial. I hope you had fun as much as I did. And until next time, keep looming. Bye.